Hey there guys, Aarava here. Today bringing you Let's Talk F1 2015, and today we're going to be discussing the Barcelona testing that just happened, the first test, and looking ahead to testing 2 and what will be going down before we eventually get to Melbourne. This is going to be another kind of podcast style video because you guys actually seem to quite enjoy the last one. You guys wanted me to do another one, so I thought I'd do it again, seeing as this week again I've been pressed for time for videos. As you can see, you know, career mode came out, but there's actually not going to be anything out and apart from this until Friday or Saturday, where the final career mode episode comes out. Unfortunately, just very pressed for time with uni stuff, but I thought I wanted to get this one out at least because it seemed like you guys really enjoyed the last one, so I thought, you know, why not? This is a bit easier to record than some of the other series, so I can get this out in time on Wednesday. So yeah, we're going to be talking about the Barcelona testing, what's been happening in test 1 if you hadn't seen, and what can you expect for test 2 ahead of obviously Melbourne, which is coming up pretty damn fast. So let's talk about testing 1. There was a lot of different things happening. Some of the major storylines, I guess. Well, I think the biggest one in the last day was Alonso, the crash he had. Basically, if you hadn't seen the news, so basically Alonso going through turn 3, the story is that a lot of wind was there on that particular corner. I believe Carlos Sainz Jr. had the similar sort of crash, but he didn't have a heavy impact like Alonso did, but essentially the wind kind of pushed the car kind of wayward off the track through to turn 4 onto the grass, and then the McLaren car kind of hit the wall, and then apparently Alonso kind of jumped out the car. It almost sounds like he went into shock, because reports are saying that doctors found him kind of shaky a bit, so it's sort of like he went into shock after the crash maybe, so he was sedated and airlifted off, and for now they say he's okay. I mean, he's being looked at further by doctors overnight, so it looks like he's okay, and they're just being very cautious about it. And they just said there's nothing really else to say about from the fact it was just kind of caused by the wind, because, you know, when he was about to crash, he was braking really hard, downshifting to try and stop the car. So, you know, we still don't know the full story. McLaren, I think they're being a bit reluctant to tell us the full story, because the reports that he was kind of in a state of shock was a bit weird, but I guess, you know, maybe after that sort of crash, maybe you would go into kind of a shock, kind of just if it's so sudden with the wind and everything. But that was kind of the major last story. But obviously, thankfully, Fernando seems to be okay, so that's over and done with. So other big stories, well, obviously Mercedes carried on pumping in the lap times, and they are just bulletproof, really. Not even them, just all the Mercedes engines, just all of them together tallied up the laps, and the Mercedes engine looks as good as ever. The Mercedes Works team looks as good as ever. They're just pumping in lap times, and you know, on the last day they did a very ominous lap time, which was what was it? On the last day, essentially, Romain Grosjean set the fastest time on the super soft tyres with a 1:24 dead, pretty much. And that was on the super softs, all right. And Rosberg said a 1:24.321. And do you want to guess what tire that was on? That was on the mediums. So, yeah, anyone who's saying maybe people have caught up a little bit, it might not be even the case that anyone's caught up, but for sure, at least I thought, and I was telling you guys in the last episode of Let's Talk, I thought Mercedes would dominate this season completely again, and this really, if you were doubting that, this just backs it up, really. You know, to be 3/10 off the Lotus on a tyre that's going to be, you know, good, you know, a second to second and a half off. I mean, that's super soft to medium. It's not exactly like they're going, you know, it goes super soft, soft, then medium. So they're 2 tyres harder, and they've set that lap time. So, yeah, Mercedes are still very much there. You know, maybe teams will be a little bit closer. We're talking like a 10th or 2/10 maybe, but they're still very much going to dominate. But definitely in terms of the pecking order, it may have changed a little bit, because Ferrari still look very solid. And I know it's testing. We've seen in the past teams that look so good in testing, and then they come out and they just look rubbish. I think a big thing was McLaren in 2013, really. The first test that came out in Jerez, and their car looked really good in Jerez. But then Barcelona, it was sort of okay. It was sort of the same. And then they came to Melbourne, and it was just horrible. So, you know, we're gonna have to be a bit cautious. But Ferrari, you know, they're also being a bit cautious as well. They're also saying, I believe new boss. I can't remember his name. If you guys can remind me, but the new boss was like, I don't believe in winning testing, in terms of he doesn't care about being the fastest in testing. But it's still very encouraging, you must say. Ferrari, Kimi Raikkonen's been saying it's a very nice car, and that's completely different to last year. So that means that it's a car that maybe he can drive a bit more. Definitely something Vettel seems like he's very comfortable in the car, and Mercedes just consistently just kind of comfortable. I think that's the word for that car. It's comfortable, it's balanced for the drivers, and I think they can kind of drive it a bit more than they could in last year's car. And I think if they just continue it, and if it's genuine form, then I think they're going to be the best of the rest. I think it'll be Mercedes, obviously, way out ahead, and I think it may be Ferrari, because unfortunately it looks like Renault are actually still behind. It doesn't seem like they're really using their tokens very well. They said they're going to delay using the tokens to upgrade the engine. They're going to use it a bit later on in the season, maybe. So definitely Renault are kind of holding back Red Bull a lot, because Red Bull have been doing a lot of simulations. They did 2 race simulations in that first Barcelona test. So essentially, I think for the first run, all the pit crew were in the garage. All the people who usually man the pit wall were all in the pit wall, and they were pretending like it was a real race. And when Ricciardo was going round, so they did proper simulations. They were way ahead of what they were last year. I mean, this time last year, they were pretty much where McLaren were, kind of in shambles of like, oh dear, are they even gonna finish the first race? But now we know they'll finish the first race probably, but it's just about the actual performance, and it looks like Renault are still not there. They're really actually letting the whole Red Bull team down, and even Toro Rosso obviously take their engines as well. And meanwhile, Mercedes are really looking good as an engine supplier as well. I mean, Williams banging in the lap times as well, doing some pit stop practice as well, which means they're confident. If teams are doing pit stop practice in testing, it means they're confident. Mercedes did it on the first day. Williams are doing it in Barcelona. The Mercedes engine powered guys are all very confident about their performance, and as they should be. Even Lotus, I think they're very happy that they've gone to a Mercedes engine. Obviously setting that headline time on the last day, obviously on super softs, but still it's a headline time. And you must say, you need a fast car to still do that sort of time on super softs. But obviously, I think in the Merc went on super softs, I think it would be a bit ridiculous. I think the Merc would probably do maybe, I'm gonna say, like, I think 120, at least 120 dead, or 123 dead maybe, 1.3 improvement, medium to super softs. I think that sounds pretty alright. So I think, just Mercedes is going to be so far out ahead. But looking forward to the next test, basically, and what's going to be happening. So obviously, McLaren need to try and solve their issues. There's been a lot of media about them. Analysts are saying they've got no excuse as to why they're doing so poorly right now, and they're saying they're so severely behind. But McLaren are still adamant they're confident about the way they're going about things, and they built the car for ultimate speed, and then they said they'll try and sort the reliability out as they go on, which is exactly what they're doing. But apparently they still haven't even used their engine to full power. Apparently it's still very underpowered, so we haven't even seen the Honda engine at full rev power that it could go to. Obviously full rev is in within the rule limit of 15,000 revs. So apparently we haven't seen the full power, or the kind of turning the wick up of the engine map. So we'll have to see how that goes. But interesting thing that Button said is we might not win the first race, but we could win the last race. So yeah, I think that's showing that him and also Alonso sort of said the same thing. Their commitment, that I think they believe this car will be fast once they get all the issues sorted out, and that's it's quite a nice thing to hear. I think it's good to hear them confident. I think last year and the year before they were all very down about the season. They're like, oh, we just don't know how to find time out this car. We just don't know what's going to work. I think the upgrade's coming, and this time they're very confident about it, but I have a feeling they won't even finish Melbourne. I think they agree with me. I think they've said that as well. I think Button even said that they might not be ready for Melbourne. They probably won't be, so I think you could see McLaren maybe both DNFing in Melbourne, to be honest, or maybe just one DNFing, the other one just kind of trotting around in maybe, towards the back end of the grid. But they'll want to try and do the best they can in the second test to kind of you know, just bringing forward. They're not even doing any upgrades. They just need to sort out the engine, really, whereas other teams are sort of bringing out aerodynamic upgrades. You've seen Sauber had some nice detailing on the rear wing, actually. They had these like kind of strakes coming up on the rear wing end plate that was kind of meant for downforce, as we've seen in the past with McLaren, actually, and Force India, where they have strakes going up. Mercedes tried to put some upside down kind of, you know, vortex generator vanes right outside the cockpit. Usually they have kind of just sticking out straight, kind of vertically, but these ones kind of curved upwards, almost like if the air was coming through, it would kind of shape it towards where they wanted it to on the side pods and whatnot. Red Bull, very difficult to kind of see what they've done, but it doesn't look like they've actually done too much to the car, but reports are saying they're going to rigorously update the car in this last test, the second Barcelona test, so that's something to look out for when you're watching or reading about the testing, that Red Bull maybe bring some actual big upgrades to the car. But obviously that livery kind of hides some stuff, but really it's just hiding the kind of nice shapes that Newey's created on that Red Bull, and it's not too different from last year's car, to be honest, apart from, you know, a few shapes of the side pods. The side pods are a bit more tucked in, but underneath everything, that's where the changes supposedly are. But obviously Renault, yeah, they're really holding them out. I kind of feel sorry for Red Bull, because Renault just, they're just so bad. They're just so bad. They're just holding them back so much, and Red Bull can't do anything, really. Because sort of like now they're the works Renault team, pretty much, because now they've gone solo with them and Toro Rosso. And Force India, I haven't mentioned them too much. Obviously, they ran their 2014 car, so we really can't, you know, look into anything. They had their 2015 livery on. Obviously, coming to the second test, that will be the big thing. They're bringing their 2015 car to the second test, so that is going to be a big deal, because we're going to have to see how it is. There were some rumors of some rendered images of the new Force India coming about, and it looked like a pretty interesting car. These rumored images of the Force India had like a S-duct like the Red Bull style. It had like a very protruding S-duct like the Red Bull, which is quite, you know, it's quite high tech for someone like Force India to come up with in one season's time. So they come up with that. It looked like the picture also had really tight side pods, some nice aero details on it, and a new front wing. So we'll have to see how that 2015 car turns out for the Force India. But for the other teams, pretty much standard stuff. Just keep on doing what they're doing. Williams just keep on putting the laps. Mercedes, obviously, they just want to keep on banging the lap times, because that was the only issue they had last year, to be honest. You know, the reliability of their engine they're running. So they're just banging in lap times. They're just doing like ridiculous stuff. They're on like 4 Grand Prix in a test, or even more than 4 Grand Prix in a test session, which is absolutely amazing and mind-boggling, really. And then you got other teams like, you know, Toro Rosso, Sauber, just continuing to kind of push on with reliability, trying to put some aero upgrades, especially teams like Sauber and Toro Rosso. Toro Rosso is supposedly actually quite struggling quite a lot on the braking still, which was an issue in Jerez. And even though the car looked so good at launch, but apparently it's just not working together for them, and it's very unstable into braking zones and such. But I think we're going to leave it there, otherwise it'll be a bit of me just kind of rambling on, trying to find things to talk about. I think that's pretty much all I can really talk about. You know, testing's testing. It's not that intriguing, but I'm looking forward to what happens after the third test. And obviously, guys, I will be doing a Let's Talk F1 or a full Melbourne preview once the first and second practice are done. Once Friday's over, I'll be watching a replay back of practice 1 and practice 2, trying to pick out some stuff from various news sources, and I will be bringing you a Let's Talk of that, hopefully probably after qualifying at Melbourne, but look out for that. I probably will maybe do one after Barcelona testing too. If you guys want me to do a Let's Talk of after Barcelona testing too, maybe give me my final predictions for what will happen in that first race, and do let me know. If you enjoy this, once again, give it a like. I know it's maybe a different style of video that I've done in the past, you know, podcast style video, but last time I did it, you guys actually seemed to really enjoy it, so tell me again if you want more. Give it a like if you did enjoy it. I've been aarava. Hope you enjoyed the rest of the day. Subscribe if you're new around here for more F1 2015 videos just like this, and some more detailed aerodynamics analysis coming up for the races. But yeah, again, I've been aarava. Hope you enjoy the rest of the day, and I will see you guys next time.